Hey MGTOWs, this is Vention. I was just watching the most recent Sandman video about suicidal women, but he talks about how men commit suicide so much more often, and how we are honestly just better at wasting ourselves because I guess we're better at a lot of things, and that's one of them. And we know that attempting suicide for us, will not get us any kind of positive comfort, right? And like women have been known to waste them or like attempt to commit suicide and fail at it, and because they are looking for help, they're looking for emotional support and all that, and it's on the map for them because they are accustomed to getting positive emotional support on things like that. And men, we know that if we show weakness like that, the only thing we will get is just rejection and just coldness, and we will not get help. um, this is not an easy video to make. I remember back in 1997, after my one of my best friends uh, got sent to jail by his angry, no sex for 2 years wife when he cheated on her, um, and she filed this false accusation that was just so obscene and horrific that the police, they came and got him, and she recanted the accusation. She said, "No, I was just angry and I wanted to use the police as a weapon." She didn't say that part, but she basically then she recanted. But the accusation was just so freaking hideous that that they didn't let him out of jail for 3 months, and by then, whatever of his life existed, it was gone. Right, his job was gone, his everything was gone, and finally, after after like that 3 months of sitting there, um, they offered him a deal. This is why the rape statistics are so high, as high as they are. It's because guys are nailed with these false accusations, and then in order to get out of freaking jail, they agree to not dispute the charges. I think they call that an Alfred plea or something, and then they're released on on time served, and then he has to be a sex offender on the sex offender list for the rest of his fucking life, right? Well, I saw my friend go through that shit, right? And I realized, I mean, I have to admire him that once once he got out, he started his he could never see his daughter again because of the horrific accusation, and his family was gone because that momentary rage that woman felt, she was able to just file that horrific accusation, and when she did that, she put a sword right through the heart of their marriage, and it was over at that point. So I mean, I looked at that shit and I just said, man, if that ever happened to me, I don't see how I could not take my own life. I don't understand how so many guys who are so brutalized with this shit, how they keep going on. I mean, how can they keep breathing? With me, I know myself well enough, and I knew myself well enough back then. I was like 34. I knew that I just couldn't do it. I would take my own life in that situation. So to any of the guys who are out there who have been through that hideous experience or something, anywhere in the neighborhood of what he went through. Jeez, I gotta hand it to you. I admire the shit out of you because I couldn't do it. Um, so so I realized that. I mean, it took me like 4 months of agonizing. I mean, talking to older mechanics and about their marriages and their divorces and reading whatever I could on it. The internet was still very new at that point, but there was some stuff on it. And then and I did that for about 4 months. I was like balanced right on the edge. I mean, I could not decide. I mean, I knew I couldn't do the marriage thing. I just couldn't do it. And but all of the plans I had made up to that point called for that. And I was like in this it was like tearing me to pieces, dudes. And then finally one night, in my old apartment, I was like pacing, and I was complaining out loud to nobody. And then it just finally the decision was made. And I remember I just sat down right in the middle of the living room floor, and it was like I couldn't do it. I knew the decision was then made. And so then I spent about a year sort of grieving before before I finally just started. I took a deep breath, and I mean, I just had to let it all go. Let's see. That night, as soon as I was on the living room floor, I just waved a silent goodbye to the kids I would never have, and gave a goodbye to the wife I will never marry, and whoever she is, she just had to find some other option. um, but basically, yeah, it was a nasty, brutal thing. I have never seen somebody that unhappy as I as the guy in jail I'm talking about. Anyway, somehow though, he put his life back together again, and he's still going. And I have got to salute his freaking courage and his his yeah, just his courage, because man, I don't think I could have done it. I would have taken my own life probably shortly after I got out of jail. Fuck. But it's not all bad. Once I made that decision, I mean, I had to like spend a little time grieving over it, and then I decided to build a life for myself without that. so so I basically just kept building my career, savings, bought myself a condo, which is what a lot of guys do when they realize they're not going to get married. um, but with the MGTOW lifestyle, I paid that shit off in like 11 years. Um, Basically, and piled up money, and money, especially if you're in like a more or less one of the few and decreasing family wage jobs, a job where you could actually support a family on it, might be a little tight, but I could have done it. but but basically, the money just piles up, and I paid my house off in 11 years, um, and then just slowly. I bought silver when I saw the 2008 recession coming. Bought it cheap, and then in 2011 it maxed out at like $48 an ounce. But then it was going down. So, but real estate was also still going down. So I wanted a house. I was into gardening at that point, and so basically I just um, watched as my silver went down to down, 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 but real estate was still dropping even faster. And then in 2012, I saw my opportunity, and I bought this house, and it's been pretty good, and it and nothing that I have can be divorced away from me, obviously, because I never got married. So uh, basically, yeah, I gotta admit, I don't think I could have endured that sort of thing. But it's not all bad. Now I'm like, the house is mostly paid off. Um, Single guy, massive surplus income. Well, for us, as far as percentage go, I'm sure there's a lot of lawyers who have more surplus income than I do, but not by percentage. Because if if a lawyer earns like $400,000 in a year and has 100,000 surplus, or maybe 40,000 surplus, that beats my surplus income. But as far as percentage goes, I've got a very high surplus income. Um, yeah. Other than that, I had a pretty good day today. um, I basically was harvesting my plum tree. I have this really tasty Italian plum tree out in the front yard, and it produces these sort of purplish plums right here. And when they're on the tree and they ripen on the tree, they are sweet. And what I do is I mean, the neighbors have a tree just like this, but they have like, it's gravel in the front yard, and it just isn't properly taken care of. But I sheet mulch and throw some compost down, and make sure that the tree gets what it really needs. And yeah, I actually I made a little vacuum cleaner attachment to harvest some of those plums that are like way out of reach. So yeah, good times. I also picked up an extra $1,000 in bitcoins today. That brings me up my little walk around wallet up to 7,000. So that's pretty cool. And let me show you the little harvester. This is my vacuum cleaner attachment plum harvesting thing. Basically, the vacuum cleaner brings it to a vacuum. This little spring, oh, here. Then you basically allow the thing to get sucked in, and then you just sort of move it right or left, and it pops the stem off. Then that goes down there and bounces on this spring to keep it from blocking the vacuum side. And I got like, let's see, there's a 5-gallon bucket, another 5-gallon bucket, another box. My estimated is I've got about 12 or 13 gallons here. I've already given away about a third of one of these 5-gallon buckets. So yeah. And my plan is to make fruit leather. I'm going to cook this stuff down, and then throw in some sunflower seeds and some Splenda and maybe some cinnamon, and throw the trays in the car or the truck, whichever one I'm not using. Oh, my little front apple tree that my dad and I planted, that's what it's produced. So anyway, so yeah, things, when you have a MGTOW lifestyle, you can really invent a life for yourself that is low stress, ultra low stress, and extremely prosperous at low stress, and stable, vastly more stable, and you don't have to worry about having a bunch of lawyers show up to steal all your shit. You don't have to worry about a false accusation of some unspeakable crime and then have the police haul you off to jail. Um, but um, even though I am sort of immune to divorce, um, there are other things that could occur that could be like devastating in a financial situation. Like, for example, like if I had a horrible car accident and my insurance wasn't enough to pay, the enemy lawyer could go after my house or other assets that I might have. So if I had a lot of assets on, like in a 401, well, I have some in a 401k, but if I had assets in a brokerage account or whatever, as well as like my house being paid off and whatnot, um, that can all be seized. But things like bitcoins and silver in the places where I have it hidden, um, a court can't just a judge can't just hit a gavel on the desk and demand that the bank that holds my silver or whatever hand over the or whatever accounts to hand over the accounts. They just can't seize it the way assets in the conventional financial system can be seized, right? So that's why I'm just a huge fan of having assets that are really hard for governments to take, because I just do not trust those fuckers. I've seen justice turned on its head and totally obliterated, and they hardly even investigated that accusation. They just let him sit there in jail, and then when they knew he was like ripe, totally exasperated and without hope, then they gave him a little hope of, yeah, you can get out. Oh, you can get out right now if you want. You just have to agree that you or don't dispute the charges. So then yet another rape or whatever is on the feminist statistics, even though he didn't do that shit. But anyway, that's why I'm a huge fan of having assets out of the conventional economic system, because, man, I don't trust those fuckers. Let's see. So basically, as a MGTOW, you can build a life for yourself, build a life that you want and that you enjoy. And that's exactly what I did in the 19 years or so since I became a MGTOW. And it's and the fact that I invented my life, my entire life now, that is where my screen name came from. That's why I call myself Vention, because I invented pretty much everything here, including myself. So, yeah, you build the life that you want, and it's a thing that you do one little piece at a time. And eventually, if you've built strongly and built intelligently, you'll end up being in a good place. Even if you're in a shitty place now, especially if you young guys, you have time to build a lot of really cool stuff. But the economy really sucks, especially for young guys. But yeah, it's a heck of a challenge. So good luck. So other than that, I hope you guys have a good weekend and don't get married. Later.